Hey everyone, welcome to my channel Lifting Your Listing, where I talk about all things real estate and try to help you whether or not you're a buyer or a seller in the market or maybe an agent looking to understand just a little bit more about how the crazy world of real estate works. We haven't met before, my name is Stephen Vey and I am a realtor here in the Nashville, Tennessee market, the most exciting market in the country, in my biased opinion. And what we're going to talk about today is what I consider the most dirty little word in real estate. But before we jump too deep into that, if you find any value in today's video or if I'm helpful to you at all, I'd really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and give the video a like if it was helpful to you. And if you have any questions or any comments, please leave them down below and I'd be glad to answer you. So, what is that most dirty little word in a purchase and sale agreement when you're putting one on a home? Contingency. If you've never heard that word before, a contingency is something that basically, think about like a series of dominoes, okay, to give you a visual image. So the final domino in a real estate transaction is the actual purchase of the home. The contingencies are dominoes that have to fall first before that final domino falls. So this must occur or the home purchase is not happening, okay? So there's 4 common contingencies we're going to go over today. There's lots of different things you can write into a purchase offer when you're a buyer working with an agent. All sorts of interesting things you can make your offer contingent on. But there's really 4 common ones that I want to go over today. And one of these contingencies I call the offer killer. All right, we're going to go over that toward the end. But what are the 4? So the 4 we're going to talk about today are the financing, appraisal, inspection, and sale of home contingencies. Okay, so let's jump right into it with the financing contingency. You want to buy a home, right? Well, likely you don't have $500,000 cash or whatever the case may be just sitting in the bank, and so you need a loan, a mortgage loan, right? And so when you put an offer in on a property, you're generally going to write it in there that this offer is contingent on my financing coming through, on a lender actually coming through and giving me money to purchase this thing. And if you're getting a loan on a property, you pretty much have to write that financing contingency in there because the contingencies all allow you as a buyer to back out, get out of the contract you signed with the seller and no longer make the purchase. And you can see why the financing contingency is such a big one, right? Because if you don't have all that cash, you don't want to be contractually obligated to make that purchase if the lender won't loan you the money, right? So financing contingency is a really common contingency in just about any purchase offer. But thinking about this, right? A buyer needs that for protection. What is a seller thinking, right? I really wish that I didn't have to deal with wondering if this third party is going to come through. So this is why cash is king in real estate. Cash offers are really appealing because while someone who offers cash could go ahead and say, I'm also going to hire an appraiser and make my offer contingent, which we'll get to in a minute, likelihood they're not. They're just going to wipe out the first 2 most common contingencies right away by offering cash. And so in a seller's market, when you have cash to purchase a home, you're much more likely to actually win that offer. For those of us who need loans, like I did when I purchased my home, the financing contingency is absolutely vital to protect you, right? Now let's talk about the next contingency, which is very interrelated with that financing contingency, and that is the appraisal contingency. So I spoke about that a moment ago. So the appraisal contingency essentially says in the contract that this offer is contingent on the appraisal either equaling or exceeding the purchase price, okay? So what's going to happen is your lender that you get is going to make you as the buyer pay for an appraiser to go out there and just validate that it's worth what you've offered on it or figure out, what the market value likely is or should be. And in a seller's market like it is today, I'm filming this in April of 2021, it's not uncommon that those offers just go up, multiple offers really excel those purchase price offers well above what an appraiser is really going to see, because he has to look backwards at comparables that have already sold to figure it out. And so what happens when an appraisal comes in below your purchase price offer? Well, with that contingency in there, you're able to back out and not make the purchase or do some negotiating, right? Because remember, your lender is only lending you a percentage of the purchase price offer or the appraised value, whichever comes in lower. And so if there's a gap there, it's either got to come out of your pocket as the buyer, or the seller's got to come down. If the seller's not willing to come down, then you as the buyer can say, well, I don't have $10,000 cash, and you back out, right? So the appraisal contingency also protects you. It's a really important contingency if you don't have tons of cash and don't necessarily want to pay it for a home. Now, if you really love the home, there's interesting things you can write into your offer, like buyer will cover $10,000 difference between the appraisal and the purchase price if such a gap exists, those kinds of things. But you have to really love the home, and if you want your offer to be appealing, that's ways to kind of help both protect yourself while having that appraisal contingency, but saying to the seller, hey, I'm willing to work with you here a little bit to cover you as well. Now let's talk about the next contingency, which is the inspection contingency. It deals with a period in a contract, commonly known as the due diligence period. And basically, if you're buying a home, you're most likely going to want to know what you're getting yourself into. You're excited, you love the home, it looked great, at least on the surface. Now you're going to want to look under the hood. But you might not have the expertise to do that, so I would encourage any of you that are buying a home to get an inspector to go out there before you close on the home and actually give you that report and show you what you're getting yourself into. And the inspection contingency basically says, if you don't like the results of the inspection, or you and the seller can't come to some sort of agreement on any repairs that should be made or some reduction in purchase price, a credit to you as the buyer back at closing to make those repairs. If you can't come to that agreement, or if you simply just get scared by that inspection report, you as the buyer once again can back out with that contingency. It protects you and allows you to no longer be contractually obligated to buy that home. Now, as I'm laying these all out, you can see why each one of these contingencies, as they stack up, can scare a seller a little bit. They're thinking, man, they got all these different ways they can not buy my house. And so the less contingencies you put in your offer, the cleaner your offer looks, the more the seller likes you. But speaking of that, we're going to talk about the final contingency, which I say is an offer killer. And it's not just me. I mean, I've seen it over and over again. When this contingency is put into a contract, and unfortunately it's a common one, it may very well have the sellers taking your offer, bunching it up and throwing it in the trash, right? I've seen offers that were basically covered in gold dust. They were so generous, so many other concessions, but they had this contingency in it, and that's the sale of home contingency in it, and it got their offer thrown out. What that is it basically is a situation where, let's say you have a home that you got to sell before you can move and buy this next home. Most people are in a situation where they don't have the kind of debt to income ratios where a lender is going to lend you on that next home unless you get this one sold, the one you're living in. So you're probably going to have to write in that contingency that says, I got to sell my home to purchase yours. I have every intent to do so, but I have to sell this. There are ways to make your offer more appealing when you have this contingency in there, and you really want to consult with a realtor to help you navigate your way around this, because like I said, this is the contingency that is the offer killer. If the seller is receiving offers from others that don't have that for sale of home contingency, they're very likely going to go with those. And one of the reasons is where this gets really complicated. I mentioned before, contingencies are like a series of dominoes. Well, the sale of home contingency is where it gets really interesting. So let's picture, we got this home to sell. Now we've got a sale of home contingency where this home has to sell before this one can sell. Well, let's say this is your home that you need to sell and you want to buy this one. But the person who offers you on your home also has a sale of home contingency, right? and maybe the person selling their home has a sale of home contingency. Well, you can see what a home way over here has to sell first before this one can sell, before this one can sell. That is the series of dominoes that can be set up in purchase of just one piece of property can be contingent on 3 others selling. No, thank you, many sellers are going to say. I'll take this other offer that's $10,000 less but doesn't have a sale of home contingency. That's how crazy it can be. So one thing to note is that there are actually programs out there in the market right now. A couple of them off the top of my head are Ribbon and Knock. There's a program out there called the Knock Home Swap. I'm actually certified with them, and they allow you to do things where you can actually make your next purchase while not being a contingent buyer. Your purchase won't be contingent on the sale of your home. So it's something to look into, but really strategize with your realtor to figure out how can I make my offer more appealing to the seller with the existence of this sale of home contingency, because it can be done. I actually worked with some clients just a couple months ago who won in a multiple offer situation where there were 30 offers on this property, and ours won even with the sale of home contingency. And so there, like I said, there are ways around it, but you need to have a strategy going in. All right. Well, now, if that was valuable to you at all, or if it kind of gave you any aha moments, I would love to hear about in the comments. Once again, please consider giving my channel a subscribe and a like. I'd be so appreciative, and I'll keep making content like this for you guys, and I will see you all in the next video.